having the ability to eliminate waste, eliminate risk, and be more effective in this omni-channel strategy is critical for dealers who want to get incremental market share. And that's the key thing, Jason. It's not just about selling the customers that we already have. It's about bringing new ones in who are spending time in places where we're not necessarily looking.
Welcome to Modern Automotive Marketing, the podcast where data meets strategy and dealerships turn insight into action. We're talking full funnel strategies, predictive insights, and real-world tactics that help dealers win in today's market. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on an episode of Modern Automotive Marketing, where I get to talk to, well, anybody and everybody I want to talk to when it comes to real modern marketing. And you're going to hear me say this a bunch of times. I'm going to use the word modern so much in this podcast, guys. You're going to get annoyed with it. But that's the objective behind this podcast, is to really take a look at our marketing strategies and our tactics and our creative concepts and our messaging and say, hey, is this as modern as we can make it? And I believe that there's always room for opportunity. We got a great guest with us today, actually a friend of mine. Funny enough, that's actually his last name. I have Justin Friend with me, VP of Sales at Prophecy Digital. Justin, what's up, man? How you doing?
Doing fantastic, Jason. How are you doing today?
I'm doing
on this modern podcast.
Modern. I got, you know what, during the voiceover, I'm gonna have to get like some really deep voiceover that's gonna be like the modern podcast. But no, it's right. Like, that's what we're talking about. And dude, I'm glad that you decided to come jam with me. Because
thanks for having me.
When I was thinking about all the people I can have to jump on with this podcast, I'm like, I gotta get Justin on this, man. This will be an absolute blast. But hey, Justin, for everybody out there who don't know who you are, I love kicking off these podcasts with a little origin story.
Sure.
Because I'm just fundamentally fascinated myself. But let's kick it off with how you got started in the industry and give me a little more information about Prophecy Digital and what you're doing over there.
Sure. Thanks, Jason. Again, thanks for having me. Good to be here with you today. I've been in automotive marketing for, I think 25 years now, done everything from direct marketing to, data mining, all the way into a digital advertising company that specialized specifically for car dealers. Currently, I'm with a company called Prophecy Digital. What Prophecy Digital does, Jason, we are a full service digital advertising agency, but forward-looking and predictive. And what that means and what the differentiator there is that, many companies talk about what happened, right? We look at reports from last month or the month prior. Super cool if I could tell you that it rained yesterday, but wouldn't it be more effective, right, if I could tell you what the weather is going to be 2 weeks from now or 2 months from now with a forward-looking analysis? Fundamentally, that's part of what we do. We deliver that through omni-channel advertising. So I think this is kind of what we're going to get into, the difference between multi-channel and omni-channel. And at our core, right, at the actual core, we have an AI machine learning platform that makes all of those data-driven decisions. And we all know how quickly things are moving and shaking in the world, in the industry, in the economy. And so our system is able to take all of those external factors into consideration and really truly make recommendations from a budget perspective, from a channel perspective, from a strategy perspective. The last piece, Jason, and I hope I didn't go too long on this, was just like incredible creative, right? Making sure that we have this exceptional creative delivered to consumers and that it's done in a timely fashion. So I'm super excited. I've been with the team here at Prophecy for 90 days at this point, and it's been just an exceptional journey in the first 90 days. And like, we're doing some really, really cool things. And again, happy to be here to talk to you today.
And guys, for out there watching and listening, that's what modern automotive marketing is about, right? Is, looking at the strategies of the past, looking at new tactics and ways that we can simply improve them. And I think Prophecy Digital is doing a great job of that. So I'm glad, Justin, you can come on today's show. Now, let's talk a little bit about today's show, because I love this topic, right? Why dealers can't rely on Google and Facebook or Meta, depending how old you are, alone. You like that one, right? It's true. I sometimes, guys, I still go into a meeting or something like that, and I use the word Meta, and oh,
Sorry,
Facebook.
what?
Yeah,
Right.
okay, yeah, yeah, I get what you're talking about, 100%, yeah, um, but no, look, for years, our industry and, Justin, we were talking about this before we started recording. I mean, look, me and you were guilty of this too. I mean, I would
Yeah.
say between 2010, or let's see, even probably 2007 to 2015, I was pushing a channel strategy
Yep.
of, like, let's make sure that we're in as many channels as possible so that we can really diversify, our marketing spend. And, it's still not a horrible strategy, but there is a lot of room for improvement. So, guys, in today's conversation, the big problem that we're ultimately going to be discussing is why in our marketing dollars we're fighting for 3% of buyers in that in market, so that bottom of that funnel people, while we're ignoring 97% that are doing research or just haven't decided yet. Let's start it off here, Justin. When I say kind of channel strategy versus funnel strategy, what's kind of the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Well, I mean, again, you nailed it, right? There's Google and there's Facebook, Instagram, Meta. Those are foundationally super important channels to be on if you're a car dealer and you're advertising. Oftentimes when we talk to dealers, Google could be 80, 85%, 90% of their budget. And then, some of these other ancillary channels are either non-existent or, such small, small pieces of the budget. I think to your point, Jason, going back to that, everybody's fighting for the 3%. Yes, every dealer wants low funnel leads. The person who's raising their hand and has submitted a lead form or taken a strong conversion action to say, hey, I'm ready. This is the vehicle I want.
Mhm.
But I think the reality is a lot of dealers are fighting over that 3% where there's a huge opportunity to go reach shoppers where they're spending time before they've made the decision, before they're ready to raise their hand and say, hey, this is what I want. And there's a lot of opportunity to do that by going with a true omni-channel strategy. And like, again, your question was, channel versus funnel. I think looking at all of the channels, it's important to have all of the channels, but they lead to a full funnel strategy where you're reaching customers at the top of the funnel when it's awareness and branding,
Mhm.
all the way through to the bottom of the funnel. And this is what you're alluding to, Jason, but all the way to the bottom of the funnel when it's intent and it's go time. So I think that you asked me what comes to mind, like that's kind of the key pieces that pop into my head when you're asking funnel versus channel.
I'm with you. I think the other thing when I kind of think about it is also just kind of cost. Right?
Sure.
I mean, look, Justin, we're no spring chickens here, right? We've been doing this for a little while,
A
right? I
minute.
mean, I tell people this and they think I'm completely lying or made it up when I say this, but like there was a point in time, all right, where I practically dominated, all right, the keyword Corvette for the southwestern part of the United States for less than 18 cents a click. Yes, yes, 18 cents a click. Can you imagine that high priority of a keyword for 18 cents? Guys,
Yep.
I'll throw another one for you. There was a point in time, all right, when me and Justin were doing marketing where there was 75% open rates on email. You're laughing. I know, but it's
Right.
true, right? I mean, like there's things have changed and they just
Just a bit.
right. And I think here's where I see, like, when I look at our industry, right, just fundamentally, and the strategies I see out there and I think something that if you're out there watching and listening, the reason you're watching and listening is because you want to get better. You want to know what more modern marketing, automotive marketing actually is. Well, think of it this way: 90% of buyers journey happens before they submit a lead. Let me just say that again: 90% of a customer's journey happens before they submit a lead. And that's a stat that I think as dealers out there and people that are responsible for the marketing of your dealership, you got to really think about that. All right. There is a lot that happens before they go and put their first name, last name, email address,
Yep.
cell phone, blood type, shoe size, and firstborn in just for the right to get an automated response from your CRM. Anyways, I won't go down that rabbit hole.
Don't digress.
I won't digress. I won't digress. All right. But Justin, let's talk a little bit about that because there's a lot that happens before the lead gets submitted.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it, right? Like people are trying to get educated. People are learning about a brand. People are learning about a dealership. Then they're going to learn about the model that they need and they want to know all of the features. And the reality is, all of this education, all of this research is taking place online. We know that video is a huge component. 70% of consumers want to be, communicated with via video. So think about the channels, right, that support video. Most of them do, but if you're going to reach a shopper on Amazon, because they're in that 90%, they're in the top, they haven't raised their hand yet and said, hey, I want the white one. Is it still in stock? Think about what that shopper's doing. They're, watching a show, streaming on, Amazon. They're scrolling Instagram or TikTok. They're potentially buying something on Amazon. Like there's all of these opportunities to reach shoppers in that 90% bucket, Jason, right? The people who are doing research and the people are still trying to get educated before they get down to, they know the year, make, model, color of the vehicle that they're looking for.
And look, that's required. I mean, kind of think about this, right? I mean, Justin, when I first started selling cars, I was working for a GM dealership, right? I mean, look, we had a GM car that was pretty much mass produced and then slapped on with 6 different logos. All right. Same car. All right. Maybe slightly different headlights and maybe different rear tail
Right.
lights. But it was the same bloody car. It's just 6 different ways. That's not the case anymore. Right.
Right.
These cars, I mean, I remember when, a refresh, like you get like a mid-cycle refresh would be like every 4 years. Right now, every 4 years, we're getting brand new models.
Yep.
And not only that, but the technology is insane. I mean, I think about like, I mean, even just within a 5-year period, guys, go out there and look at like, I don't know, Hyundai Elantra 5 years ago, and then look at one today. Someone took a plasma's big LCD screen, slapped it in the middle of it, and stuck an Xbox in it, right? I mean, just and not only that, then you got EVs. All right. So if you go back and even just look at like, purchasing vehicles, before even COVID, even the last 5 years, right? Like there wasn't this many options. There is so much happening before they submit a lead. There's so much work there. There's so much education. There's so much things as a consumer I need to know and I have to find out. And very much so, even around electric vehicles and now new hybrids that are coming out. Anyways, just I'll get off this because I know you got some stuff you want to add to this.
So I want to come back to it, but it's actually funny, and I know you'll appreciate this. So I was talking to one of my colleagues yesterday, and he just purchased for his boys, really for him, so we're clear, a 2003 Jeep Wrangler. Right? So like, think about it. I know you're laughing. I know you're smiling, but think about it. Manual transmission, crank, roll up windows. He went out and purchased like a Apple CarPlay setup radio that he can put in there. And when he and I were talking about it yesterday, I'm like, oh man, that is so cool. Like I love that. I love that as an experience for your kids. His boys, can drive, but how many kids nowadays can actually drive a manual transmission? But the thing that I said that was so cool, I'm like, dude, you're like feeling the drive. Like you have to be active in driving it. And it is such a fascinating thing with where we are today with all the technology in cars versus, a 2003 manual Wrangler. So that obviously, is a digression. Your point about EVs and technology and all of these things, to me, it comes down to education, right? Yeah. And that's where when shoppers are in an upper funnel mindset and they're looking to get educated, it's really important that, your dealership, if you want to be, in front of people and you want to be forward looking and predictive, you've got to adapt different strategies and meet those customers where they're spending time. And it's not just on, Google and Meta. And we don't have an issue with Google and Meta. Like they're, like I said earlier, foundational. But when it comes to EV research, you've got to be in different places. When it comes to hybrid research, when it comes to technology, it's really important that you have the right content in front of the right shoppers at the right time in their journey, which goes back to your point, Jason, about like where they are in the funnel and having a full funnel strategy versus just having, a few channels reach out to shoppers.
Well, and I think even so right now, I mean, if we look at just kind of like general interest rates, look, I mean, I had a neighbor that, he leased like 9 RAV4s. And, this year he changed, because it just wasn't that same, he just
Sure.
couldn't get into the same RAV4 like he could before for the same price point, right? Like he just because you have to understand, like I do believe now, that the consumers are just out there. There is a lot they have to educate themselves.
Yep.
They're spending, like I said, I mean, like 90% of that journey is happening before they submit a lead. And if you guys aren't running a full funnel or omni-channel full funnel approach, to this, and because this doesn't just mean that you take your same piece of creative and you just throw this at different parts of the funnel. Here's Justin. Here's a funny thing, and I know that this probably happens to you too. Like, I'll go to a dinner party, and someone will find out I'm in the auto industry, right? And they'll let me tell you about the car I bought, right? And this happens pretty frequently. But I will tell you, I've never been told about the $250 biweekly car that they got, right? Like, it's even though that is the ad I literally see everywhere out there. Let's talk a little bit about communicating to the consumer through the entire funnel.
Well, and I think you made a good point earlier, right? This goes back to not just being on multiple channels, but having them integrated. And so,
Good
to
point.
your point, yes, oftentimes you'll go on a website and there's a $299 per month lease on whatever model it is, and that's fantastic. And I know, right? We know that there are people who purchase that vehicle. To your
Sure.
point about the dinner party, it's not super frequent and it may not be often. So by having a truly integrated strategy, and by integrated I mean one entity or one organization managing all of the channels, right? So that's the integration part.
Yes.
To your point about having somebody not necessarily speak about the 250 per month monthly payment, that's where the messaging needs to evolve based on the shopper and based on not only where they're spending time, but the digital signals, the digital breadcrumbs that they're laying
Mm,
down.
mm.
Because at the end of the day, if you're shopping for payment, right, and 299 is the trigger for you, and I'm shopping for a pickup truck, 299 and a pickup truck probably aren't going to go hand in hand. So the messaging that you receive versus the messaging that I receive, they need to vary. They need to match your desire and the signals you're laying down, and it needs to match my desire or needs and the signals that I'm laying down. So I think having the ability to not only diversify and be across all of these channels in a collaborative integrated way, but making sure that the creative and the messaging is appropriate for each consumer based on what they're looking for, but also based on where they are in their buyer journey, right? If you already are down to the point where your make model and a dealership sends you an ad introducing themselves and it's branding and awareness, well, they probably just wasted, some advertising funds on you because you're already down to your make model.
Exactly.
And so having the ability to, eliminate waste, eliminate risk, and be more effective in this omni-channel, strategy is critical for dealers who want to get incremental market share. And that's the key thing, Jason. It's not just about selling the customers that we already have. It's about bringing new ones in who are spending time in places where we're not necessarily looking.
I'm glad that you brought that up, right? Because, I think too often as a dealer, maybe we get sold a bag of goods, or maybe we just, it's our fundamental understanding that, marketing just simply just increases, sales, right? Like, there's only going to be so many people that are going to buy a vehicle every given month. Okay. Your objective as a dealer should, I mean, there's no marketing in the world that's going to increase the size of the pie as much as it's going to increase your share of that pie. Right. And those are the type of strategies that you have to be talking to, to your agency, to your partner on this. Right. And one of the things, Justin, that I've always been fundamentally just impressed with Prophecy Digital is not only do you guys do this with a full funnel, but you're also able to move those ad dollars in a very intelligent way. Because I think too often, because look, I couldn't do this myself. I believed, I've always believed in full funnel strategies over
Yep.
over multiple channels. I've always believed that I saw it. I literally saw the data myself. I would have lower cost of per lead when I target people higher up in the funnel, right? But again, when I did it, all right, I was only able to allocate a certain dollar amount to it, and then wait until the end of the
Right.
month to see if the data made sense.
Right.
You guys are doing something way even more modern than that. Can we dive a little bit into your guys' approach to that?
Yeah, and it's funny. I wanna sidebar for just a sec and share with you the story with why Prophecy Digital is named Prophecy Digital. So there's really two things, right? We're forward looking and predictive or prophetic, right? So that's the prophecy piece, if you will. The other piece, Jason, for us is we're keenly focused on profit for a dealer. So hence
I like
the
that.
PROF spelling. So that's the backstory behind Prophecy Digital, because at the end of the day, anybody can sell. Well, I don't want to oversimplify this. Dealers can sell cars, right? But operators, GMs, dealer principals, owners, they want to make sure that they're selling vehicles profitably.
Of course.
So not only are we forward looking, but we're also keenly focused for dealers on profitability. What you asked as far as the shifts, that is fundamentally part of what our system does. It gives our team the ability to see trends in the market. So we know that if customers are shifting from an upper funnel, right, they're doing research, we're going to see when that peak, if you will, starts to shift, and we're going to be able to know exactly when vehicles are going to start to be sold. We've had conversations with some of our partners, Jason, about hey, it's the 20th of the month, we're not seeing as many customers in the front door. We can go in and look at our tools and say, hey, listen, hold on, give me 24 hours. We've had instances, Jason, where based on that predictive nature, we've had people call us back and say, gosh, you know what? We crushed it today. We sold 10 cars. You're absolutely correct. So part of what we have the ability to do is look at that shift in the data and make sure that the recommendations are happening in virtual real time, or pretty darn close to real time. We run our media modeling mix every 24 hours. So that gives us the ability to shift funds from, Amazon to Google or TikTok or wherever the case may be, and do it effectively. You mentioned earlier the cost. A lot of people think that omni-channel can be more expensive. It's actually not. It should be more efficient if it's done appropriately. So again, a lot of it is about removing risk from advertising. A lot of it is about helping dealers understand what levers need to be pushed or pulled in that exact moment in time.
And look, that's difficult. I mean, but this is the complexity of modern automotive marketing, right?
Yep.
Like, I do believe that, hey, if you're out there watching, listening, you guys need to find a partner, all right, to be able to execute this level of strategy. Do I believe you can execute a strategy inside your own dealership? Yeah, sure. Can you do it
Sure.
to this level of complexity? No, you can't. And you got to find a partner to do that. And I will tell you, though, the higher up in the funnel that you can get the lead, all right, and you can usually tell this by what question is coming through on that lead, right? That was always my kind of it's kind of an analog way of knowing, right? If they're just simply asking if it's in stock, I know that it's a very bottom of the funnel lead.
Yep.
All right. If they're asking me about packages or certain options and stuff like that, I know that it's higher up on the lead. But I will tell you right now, I had to track that. And by the way, there was no system to do that. I had to do this manually, right? Because I didn't know the difference between a bottom of the funnel lead and a higher up the funnel lead. But I will tell you, it is more profitable. Hands down, it is more profitable, all right, to target people and get them into conversation where you can create trust. And once you've created that trust in the conversation, getting them into the dealership and, just it's going to be a more profitable opportunity. I'm just going to say that. I'll get off my soapbox on there. But no, not just profitable just for the sales department. Justin, I did want to get a little bit because this is a strategy that should be executed across all departments. And can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on, right? Everybody thinks sales first, right? And
Of
whether
course.
it's new or pre-owned, that is part of it, right? But fixed ops is such a fantastic opportunity. Most people, when it comes to fixed ops, are looking again at sort of the same channels, and it's not a bad thing, right? We're not making fun of any agencies or telling anybody their kid is ugly. It's just a way to look at things differently, right? We have a different belief system at Prophecy Digital, and we believe that things can be done more effectively. To your point about fixed ops, sure, we've done studies where if you are looking at a dealership that's running just simply Facebook and Google, and then look at another dealership that's running a true omni-channel strategy across 12 different channels, we've seen things like 360 plus percent users. We've attracted
Sure.
people who are spending way more time on site. We know that time on site means that they're learning more, or getting educated, or scheduling service. The other thing that's fantastic about fixed up advertising, if done correctly, this is an opportunity to build your pipeline for sales,
Absolutely.
right? People do service far more frequently than they are purchasing a vehicle. So you have an opportunity to bring somebody in. It's going to happen quicker, right? It's going to work quicker. And if your service department does an exceptional job, you have a really good opportunity to earn that customer from a sales perspective when their lease is up, their finance is up, they need a new vehicle, their son, daughter, whatever the case may be. There's a great opportunity there, and dealers know that, right? That's nothing that we're telling anybody that's shocking or new.
Well, you say that, and then I go, talk to 10 dealers and find out that 2 of the 10 have a solid fixed ops marketing strategy. So,
Fair.
like it's I we can admit that. Now, what we actually do about it, here's another number that we can admit in this industry. And by the way, if you're out there watching, listening, you know this to be true. All right. Depending on your brand, between 60 and 80% of your customers leave your business and no longer service with you after the warranty expires.
Yep.
And let's just think about that for a second. I mean, they were they were servicing with you and doing business with you because the warranty existed. You didn't
Yep.
market to them or communicate to them during that entire time, but they were there because, well, because the warranty was there. They wanted to keep it, right? So it's like, if you're not doing this, if you're not being proactive about this, all right, you're constantly going to be in an acquisition mode, a new customer acquisition mode, and that's the most costly place to be. You're focusing on that 3% and just killing yourself every single month for that 3% when every other dealer is out there doing it. Anyways, I'll get off.
Well, and I
Right.
guess one thing to add to that, Jason, like you mentioned the fact that most dealers do a decent job when they're in warranty, or there's a maintenance plan that's included, and then they go out. Our strategy, our recommendation, right? And I don't know if this is giving away a little bit of secret sauce, but so be it. If you're listening, good on you. Our strategy is to go after 2 years and out
Mhm.
for the core services, oil changes, brakes, tire rotation, standard maintenance, because those are going to be the opportunities to increase customer pay, right? And get them back in the shop and then start that cycle all over again. So like that's kind of our core philosophy when it comes to getting a dealer started from a fixed ops perspective.
Well, look, and I think for everybody out there watching and listening, you have to do this. And all right, and I'll tell you right now, if unless you're a Subaru dealership, okay, because if you're a Subaru dealership, you can just go ahead and ignore this message altogether, right? Because you have no problem whatsoever with loyalty and getting people to come back and buy another Subaru from you. Mind-boggling. Or Tesla. Anyways, um, but for the rest of us, all right, out there, leasing used to be that golden ticket for us, right? And
Right.
just, if you were at, 50, 60% plus, sometimes even higher than that, lease penetration, right? You knew that business was coming back and you knew you were able to kind of
Right.
feed that bucket again. Guys, let's face it, that's been gone for the last 5 years, right?
Years.
At
Yeah.
least, so like, you have to find that business inside your service department, and you need to find a partner, all right, that understands a full funnel approach, but not only just a full funnel approach, but also a multi departmental. So you got to
Yep.
have all your departments covered, and you need to have it full funnel. Wouldn't you say, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, cover every profit center in your dealership, right? That's
There you
that's
go.
the bottom line. If you're effectively reaching out to consumers, targeting all of the profit centers, so sales, new pre-owned, CPO, vehicle acquisition, service, parts. If you have an effective strategy and you're reaching out to consumers with cohesive messaging for every one of those profit centers across all stages of the funnel, you're going to have a far more effective and far more efficient marketing strategy that's ultimately just going to make your dealership, sell more vehicles, service more vehicles, but at the end of the day, be more profitable.
It's funny. I'm actually kind of really glad that you also brought up parts. Because talk about another profit center that there's some dealers out there that just don't understand. I have a friend of
Right.
mine who's out in California, has a BMW dealership who does 3.2 million,
Wow.
right, a year in customer pay, over the counter
Parts.
parts sales. And I'm going to say parts, but really what I'm saying is accessories.
Sure.
And this guy sells everything. I can't, if I told you how many tens of thousands of dollars worth of BMW hats he sells, you would be
Yeah.
blown away, right? But the data's there. All right.
Yep.
These people that have bought hats from him, jackets from him, all kinds of different accessories from him. Guess what happens in 4 or 5 years? They buy cars from them.
That's it.
They service with him, right?
Right.
He's invested a substantial he probably spends more money on a parts and accessory ad spend than I think anybody I know. And he sees the results, but he sees how that results also feeds the rest of his departments, because you
Yep.
have to be looking at all profit. Like Jennison was saying, you have to look at all profit centers. Hey, Justin, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our conversation, and I'm so glad we actually get to do a few of these, because like we could easily continue on this. But any final thoughts, real quick, for everybody out there watching and listening?
Man, final thoughts, Jason. I think if there's one thing, just like if you're just looking at customers in the bottom of the funnel, you're probably already late. Like, you're gonna not necessarily win the game over the next 12 months. I think the dealers that focus on a true full funnel strategy, reaching shoppers where they're spending time, reaching shoppers that they aren't currently communicating with, those are going to be the dealers that are able to win effectively over the next 12 months.
100% well said. And guys, that's fundamentally why you can't rely on just Google and Facebook, or Meta, depending on how old you are, alone, right, to do the job. I'm not saying that the channels are bad. Definitely need to be channels, but you need to, like Justin was saying, need to approach them for a full funnel perspective if you're going to be participating in modern automotive marketing. All right, that is how you have to do it, and I'll call you out on it. Don't get me wrong. If you are
Yes,
more
you
than
will.
welcome to send me, you guys are more than, and I get this sometimes. I do. I love this on LinkedIn. People literally send me, like their last month's spend in analytics and reports, and they're like, "What do you think?" And usually the first thing I'll call out on them was, this doesn't look full funnel on this, where it's only focusing on the 3%. Guys, if you're looking to really capitalize on what you're spending and build your business, you got to look at all departments. You can't just focus on the 3%. All right. So much research has happened. Just look at the cars, guys. We talked about this earlier. The delta now between price between ICE and EV is so minimal now that it just makes more sense. Like, there's
Right.
just so much more research, so more things going out there, and you guys need to be able to market that and find a partner that's going to help you do that. All right. If your current partner doesn't have a full funnel strategy, you push back on them. And if they don't, well, guess what? I know a guy. Hey,
It's always
Justin.
good to know a guy.
Oh, we know a guy, right? All right. Now you guys know a guy. But hey, real quick before I leave, for everybody out there who's watching and listening, who would maybe like to continue some parts of the conversation, because I don't think we necessarily covered everything today. What's a great way to connect with you and maybe continue some parts of this conversation?
Yeah, sure. And I'm sure you'll drop all the contact info in the show notes, but company website is prophecydigital.com. It's PROFICY digital.com. You can reach me at justin.friend@prophecydigital.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to connect.
Awesome. Hey, for everybody out there watching, listening, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today's episode. I'm really excited to continue to do these episodes. I am on a mission, all right, to help dealers find their modern automotive marketing strategies. And I know, Justin, you're going to help me with this mission for a while. So this is great.
Looking forward to
Hey,
it.
one of the biggest compliments you can give myself or Justin in creating content like this is to share the show. And honestly, it's the biggest compliment you can ever give a content creator is to share the show. All right. If you have a manager or a colleague or a friend that needs to see some part of today's conversation, it means so much to us as content creators if you share the show. Justin, again, thank you so much for your time, and everybody out there watching and listening. I'll see you next time.
Good to see you.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to Modern Automotive Marketing, where modern marketing meets measurable results. From predictive insights to creative that actually converts, we're here to turn insight into action. Make sure to follow the show, share it with your team, and we'll see you in the next episode.